Every morning, 8 billion people wake up and depend on something they have never heard of, and right now it is disappearing. You cannot see it. You cannot touch it. You cannot smell it. You cannot taste it. But it decides how much your food costs, whether your job exists, whether your country stays safe or becomes a battlefield, whether your children go to school or hide in bomb shelters, whether your hospital has medicine or runs out of supplies. And the people who control it do not want you to know it exists. Think about your last grocery bill. Think about the price of petrol. Think about the cost of electricity. Think about the monthly payment for your phone. Think about the cost of heating your home in winter. Every single one of these numbers is being quietly manipulated by forces you cannot see. And the people responsible are not politicians. They are not generals. They are not celebrities. They are the ones who control the resources this world cannot live without. Russia has been playing a game that most nations did not even know existed. While the world was distracted by elections, wars, and celebrity scandals, they were building something far more dangerous than any nuclear weapon. They were building dependency. They were building a web of control so intricate, so invisible, that by the time anyone noticed, it would be too late to escape. One number, 2030. That is the year Russia has quietly set as its deadline. That is the year they plan to complete their transformation from a regional power to the single most essential nation on Earth. And the world has no idea what they are planning. This is not speculation. This is not conspiracy. This is not the ranting of a paranoid mind. This is a reality that governments are terrified to admit, because admitting it means accepting that they have already lost. It means accepting that their decades of dominance are over. It means accepting that a new world order is being written, and they are not the ones holding the pen. So let's begin. Let's go beyond the headlines, beyond the map, beyond the lies. Let us uncover the truth that nobody wants you to know. Let me ask you something. When was the last time you thought about where your food comes from, where your electricity comes from, where the materials for your phone come from, where the steel for your car comes from, where the gas that cooks your meals comes from? Most people never think about these things. They just assume that the world will keep working, that the stores will always be full, that the lights will always turn on, that the internet will always work, that the supply chains will never break. But that assumption is the most dangerous thing in the world, because the people who control the resources know that most people are not paying attention, and they are counting on it. They are banking on your ignorance. They are building their power on the foundation of your distraction. And right now, as you sit there reading this, Russia is executing a plan that has been decades in the making. A plan that will determine the fate of every person, every family, every nation on this planet. And almost nobody is talking about it. To understand what is happening now, we have to go back, not to last year, not to the last decade, not even to the last century, but to the land itself. The frozen tundra, the endless forests, the mountains that hold secrets beneath their surface, the rivers that carve paths through the wilderness, the permafrost that covers millions of square kilometers. This land was never meant to be conquered, and yet it was. For centuries, the people who lived here survived winters that would kill most of the world, temperatures dropping to minus 40 degrees, months of darkness. Food so scarce that survival was a daily battle. They built empires from nothing. They fought invasions that should have destroyed them. They endured famines, wars, and plagues that wiped out entire populations. And they learned something that no one else understood. Survival requires control, not just of people, but of resources, of trade routes, of the very ground beneath their feet. The Mongols came. They conquered. The French came. They were defeated. The Germans came. They were crushed. Each time, Russia absorbed the blow and grew stronger, not because of their army, not because of their leaders, but because of the land itself. The vastness, the harshness, the unforgiving nature of the Russian winter. It was the land that protected them, and it is the land that will give them power over the rest of us. Then came the Industrial Revolution. Then came the pipelines. Then came the deals signed in secret rooms by people whose names you will never know. The deals that transferred wealth from the earth to the hands of a select few. The deals that bypassed governments and parliaments. The deals that created a parallel system of power that no election could ever change. And slowly, quietly, the world began to depend on this one place for something it could not live without. Oil, gas, minerals, rare earth elements that power every smartphone, every military, every hospital, every factory, every vehicle, every power plant on Earth. The world became addicted to Russian resources. And Russia became addicted to the power that came with it. Every country became addicted. Every industry became dependent. Every person who turns on a light, drives a car, buys bread, uses a phone, or turns on a computer is part of this dependency. There is no escape. There is no alternative. There is no backup plan. But here is what nobody tells you. Russia knew exactly what they were doing. They did not stumble into this power. They did not stumble into this wealth. They planned it, decade by decade, treaty by treaty, pipeline by pipeline, deal by deal. They played the longest game in modern history. While the West was busy fighting wars in distant lands, in Afghanistan, in Iraq, in Libya, in Syria, Russia was building the infrastructure that would one day give them control over the entire global economy. They were building pipelines to Europe. They were building railways to China. They were building ports in the Arctic. They were stockpiling resources. They were signing secret agreements with nations that the West had forgotten. And then came the moment that changed everything. The moment when Russia realized that they did not just have resources. They had leverage. They had the ability to say no. And when they said no, the world would have no choice but to listen. That is when the trap was set, and the world walked right into it. Not with a bang, not with a warning, but with a quiet smile and a handshake that sealed the fate of billions. Most people believe power comes from weapons, from armies, from elections, from bombs, from missiles, from aircraft carriers. They are wrong, deadly wrong. Real power comes from one thing. What is underground, the soil, the minerals, the elements that cannot be manufactured, the things that nature put there millions of years ago and that no human ingenuity can replace. And right now, under the frozen soil of Russia, lies something worth more than all the gold, oil, and diamonds on Earth combined. It is worth more than the entire economy of the United States. It is worth more than the combined wealth of every European nation. It is the single most valuable resource in the history of humanity. It is called Resource X. You have never heard of it. Your friends have never heard of it. Your politicians have never spoken about it. But without it, every smartphone stops working. Every military loses its edge. Every hospital loses its ability to save lives. Every car becomes a useless piece of metal. Every airplane stays on the ground. Every factory ceases production. Every power grid fails. And Russia controls 70% of the global supply. Let me say that again. 70%. That is not a majority. That is a monopoly. That is complete and total control. There is no competitor. There is no substitute. There is no plan B. But that is not even the secret. The secret is that Russia knew about this resource decades ago. They knew before anyone else. They knew before the Americans. They knew before the Chinese. They knew before the Europeans. They knew what it would mean for the future. And while the rest of the world was busy fighting over oil, they were quietly securing their position. They built stockpiles that would last for years. They built infrastructure to extract, process, and transport the resource. They built relationships with a few other nations that had even a fraction of this resource. They signed exclusive deals that locked out competitors. They created a cartel that nobody could challenge. And they made sure that nobody would ever be able to challenge their control. Now, here's the part that will keep you up at night. Russia does not just have the resource. They have the ability to turn it off, to shut down the supply, to make the world stop with the flick of a switch, with the stroke of a pen, with a single phone call. And they have already done it, not openly, not obviously, but quietly. Test runs, small disruptions, minor shortages, just to see what would happen, just to test the system, just to calibrate their power. And what happened? Nothing. The world did not react, did not prepare, did not even notice. The markets shrugged. The governments issued statements. The media moved on to the next scandal. Nobody asked the hard questions. Nobody looked at the data. Nobody connected the dots. So now, Russia knows they can do it. They know there is nothing anyone can do to stop them. They know that the world is helpless. They know that their power is absolute. By 2030, this single country will have the power to shut down the global economy within hours. And no one is talking about it. Why? Because talking about it would mean admitting that we have already lost, that our governments are powerless, that our leaders have been outplayed, that our intelligence agencies failed, that our best efforts were no match for their strategy. And that is a truth that nobody wants to face. Let us trace this outward, like rings in water, like shock waves from an explosion, starting with global trade, every shipment, every container, every cargo ship crossing the ocean, every truck on the highway, every train on the tracks, every plane in the sky. All of them depend on one thing: stability. But when one country holds the key to the world's most critical resource, stability becomes a luxury that nobody can afford. In London, the price of coffee is about to triple. Why? Because the shipping routes that bring coffee from Africa and South America pass through waters controlled by Russia's allies. The Suez Canal, the Bab el-Mandeb Strait, the Strait of Hormuz. All of them are watched. All of them are controlled. All of them can be closed. In New York, the cost of heating a home is expected to rise by 60% this winter. Why? Because Russia supplies the gas that keeps American homes warm. Not directly, but through the global market. When Russia tightens the supply, prices rise everywhere. There is no sanctuary. In Karachi, the price of petrol will hit levels never seen before. Why? Because Russia controls the pipelines that bring oil to South Asia. The pipelines that run through Afghanistan, through Kazakhstan, through Uzbekistan. Pipelines that could be turned off with a single order. In Tokyo, the technology industry is quietly preparing for a shutdown that could last months. Why? Because the rare earth elements needed to make semiconductors come from Russia. The chips in your phone, the chips in your car, the chips in your hospital equipment. All of them depend on Russian resources. But here's what the Western media will not tell you. In Pakistan, remittances from workers abroad will drop by 40%. Why? Because when the global economy slows down, the Gulf states stop building. When they stop building, millions of workers lose their jobs. When they lose their jobs, they stop sending money home. And that means families can't eat. Children can't go to school. The sick can't afford medicine. In the UAE, the construction boom is about to collapse. Why? Because steel prices are rising faster than ever recorded. And steel comes from iron ore. And iron ore shipments pass through routes that Russia can close at will. The Burj Khalifa, the Palm Islands, the future cities. All of them are built on Russia-controlled supply chains. In Bangladesh, the garment industry is facing bankruptcy. Why? Because the dyes, the chemicals, the machines, the materials all come through routes that Russia dominates. When the supply chain breaks, the factories close. When the factories close, the workers starve. This is not a distant problem. This is not someone else's problem. This is your problem. Consider the village in Novaya Derevnya, a small community of farmers in the Russian countryside who have never heard of geopolitics. They don't know who the president of the United States is. They don't care about elections in Europe. But this year, they cannot afford fertilizer. Their crops are failing. Their children are hungry. And they have no idea that a decision made thousands of miles away is responsible. A decision made by men who have never seen their village, who do not care about their children, who only care about one thing: power. That is the ripple. That is the human cost. And it is only getting worse. Think about your own life. Think about the things you take for granted. The price of bread, the cost of a plane ticket, the availability of medicine, the delivery of your Amazon package, the streaming of your Netflix show, the charging of your phone. Every single one of these things is connected to Russia. Every single one of them is at risk, and most people have no idea. That is why this documentary exists, to wake you up, to make you understand, to prepare you for what is coming. Because what is coming will change everything, and it will happen faster than anyone expects. But here is the darkness that no one wants to acknowledge. This power is not permanent. Russia faces threats that could destroy everything they have built. Threats from nature, threats from competitors, threats from technology, threats from within. Climate change is melting the permafrost that holds this nation's infrastructure together. Pipelines are cracking, mines are flooding, runways are sinking, buildings are tilting. The very ground that gave Russia its power is turning against it. In the next decade, millions of square kilometers of frozen land will become unusable. Entire cities will have to be relocated. Billions of dollars of infrastructure will be lost. The cost of maintaining their resource empire will skyrocket. And with every degree of warming, their power diminishes. And there is another threat. China is watching. India is watching. The United States is quietly building alternatives. The European Union is investing in renewable energy. Japan is developing recycling technologies. South Korea is exploring new supply chains. The race is already underway. And the country that wins this race will not just control resources. It will control the future of humanity itself. China is building its own supply chains in Africa. India is signing new deals with resource-rich nations in South America. The United States is investing in rare earth recycling technologies that can make Russian resources obsolete. The EU is funding research into alternatives to Russian minerals. But here is the most dangerous part. When a powerful nation realizes it is losing its power, it becomes unpredictable, desperate, dangerous. Russia will not give up their control quietly. They will not accept defeat. They will not retreat gracefully. They will do whatever it takes to maintain their position. And that includes things we cannot even imagine. Cyber warfare, economic blackmail, military intervention, political assassinations, election interference. The full range of hybrid warfare. They have already demonstrated their capabilities in Ukraine, in Syria, in the United States, in Europe. They have shown they are willing to go to any length to protect their interests. This is not panic. This is a warning. Delivered calmly, delivered clearly, because the truth is far more dangerous than any fiction. The power we just mapped could vanish within a single decade, and the country that replaces it is one most people cannot even find on a map. A small nation, a tiny population, a strategic location, a massive resource reserve, quietly waiting, quietly preparing, just like Russia did decades ago. The question is not whether Russia will fall. The question is what will rise in its place, and whether we are ready for it, and whether we will make the same mistakes, and whether we will ignore the same warnings, and whether we will walk into the same trap. So what does the future look like? Let us imagine. Let us project. Let us see the two paths that stretch before us. Two paths. Two futures. Both terrifying in their own way. In the first path, Russia consolidates its power. Every nation bows to its will. The global order is rewritten. The United Nations becomes a puppet. The European Union becomes a vassal. The United States becomes a bystander. Your children will learn a different history than you did. A history where Russia was always the center, always the master, always the architect. In this future, there are no independent nations. There are only vassals, providers of resources, consumers of goods, workers who have no say in their own destiny, farmers who grow what they are told, factories that produce what they are ordered, people who vote as they are instructed. Russia controls everything. What you eat, what you wear, what you drive, what you believe, who you trust, who you fear, who you love. There is no escape. There is no resistance. There is no hope. In the second path, the collapse comes. The resource runs out. The climate destroys the infrastructure. The competitors outmaneuver them. The technology overtakes them. And a new power rises from the ashes, one that is currently invisible, quietly preparing, patiently waiting, just like Russia did decades ago. A nation that most people have never visited, never thought about, never studied, but one that will write the next chapter of human history. This new power could be China, a country with a population, the resources, and the determination to challenge Russian dominance. Could be India, a democracy with a growing economy and a strategic location. could be Brazil, the resource giant of South America, could be a nation in Africa, a continent that the world has ignored for too long. But one thing is certain, the world will never be the same. And here's the question that will haunt you, the question that should keep you up at night, the question that will define the rest of your life. Are we any better prepared for the next power than we were for this one? Or are we doomed to repeat the same mistakes, to ignore the same warnings, to walk into the same trap, to trust the same lies, to believe the same propaganda? The map never lies, but the people drawing it always have a reason. We just saw how Russia controls what the world cannot live without. But there is one nation quietly positioning itself to take all of it, a nation that is learning from Russia's playbook, a nation that is building its own infrastructure, stockpiling its own resources, signing its own secret deals. That is the next journey, the next documentary, the next truth that needs to be uncovered. Which future do you believe? Future 1 or Future 2? Do you believe Russia will win? Or will they fall? Comment Future 1 or Future 2 and let us know what you think. And subscribe to Atlas Beyond so you never miss the next journey. Because the journey has only just begun. The map never lies. But the people drawing it always have a reason.